Did you say that?
Right over there. Where
I think we should get that in there.
Yeah, so there is another comment for 6, that would be a B, and that's
Demonstrate screening.
Sorry.
show if existing screening is present to screen project from the street, otherwise add additional planting.
Yeah, because they had no photos, right, of that.
It's some, but it couldn't decipher what was happening. So return with additional photos from the street to ensure adequate screening.
How about and demonstrate adequate screening? So either it's already there or they got it.
Right. Okay. Does that make sense, Kimberly?
I've got a couple of things going on here. So did we finalize to return with additional photos depicting existing screening?
It was
and demonstrate existing, return with additional photos and demonstrate existing screening?
and demonstrate sufficient screening.
Sufficient screening.
That way it's either existing or proposed. And then also for A, I don't know if you got that one.
As built structures as opposed to proposed.
Yep. As built proposed structures.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. There's the other one. They had a landscape plan.
Yeah, they did.
So you can remove the first part of B because they already had a landscape plan. So we could just start with study ways to incorporate trees.
Can we say add trees instead of study ways?
And yeah, incorporate trees, just eliminate study ways to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The boulders were in the parkway, which we determined.
I think we can still make recommendations. It's just they don't necessarily have to do it because it's in the right of way. Okay, so it's basically incorporate trees to soften driveway entrances while respecting required sight lines. If boulders are to be proposed in the right of way to appear more naturalistic. And let's see.
And move the fence a minimum of 18 inches. That's good.
Yeah. So any ways to reduce paving. Okay, so there was also study trash enclosure and confirm placement within front yard setback is allowed. There was also a comment.
There was that shed too, study trash enclosure / shed.
It wasn't a shed though. It was labeled as a shed, but it was an enclosure.
I think it's a shed.
Oh, that's right. You said it was like a tough shed.
He says a tough shed.
Study trash enclosure and shed and confirm placement. Underneath that, a new F would be study whether parking is allowed in the front setback. That's another.
Yeah, when you made that comment, I was thinking, where else would they park on that property? The whole thing is,
Yeah.
Right.
they had converted the garage into part of the house. So.
That's why they don't want trees, because they're gonna park in the.
Details of proposed gates, return site photos. Okay, so did you get the
If I could recap, that would be super awesome. B, strike the first portion of the sentence and it reads incorporate trees to soften driveway entrances while respecting required sight lines. If boulders proposed in right of way, have them look more naturalistic. C and D stand, correct? E is study trash enclosure / shed and confirm placement within front setback is allowed. A new item, study whether parking allowed in front setback. And then the existing F and G remain, correct?
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
You could actually, instead of adding the parking, that could just go after,
Trash enclosure and shed.
no, in front of C. So study of parking allowed and then study ways to reduce paving.
Okay, will do.
Right. Number, oh, that was the last one. That's right.
I
Short.
refuse to do number.
Understood. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to confirm the minutes as amended.
Second. Again, keep in mind we have to speak up because the microphone's over here. It's in there somewhere. All right. So first and a second, all those in favor?
But you can do that.
Motion passes 5-0. Alex Pujo and
John,
John Verdiak is absent.
I have to recuse from item number 1.
Just saying.
I'll have to recuse from item 7. Are we doing?
Not for today, this is for the minutes.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry, who's recusing from item 1?
That was me, Gilliland,
Thank you.
You mean from the minutes.
from the minutes. Yeah.
Oh, from the
Not-
minutes. Thank you.
Yeah. Speaking of recusals, item number 4, SBAR members informational briefings.
Yeah, Jonathan, I will be gone September. So
September, okay.
Going
wouldn't you like to know? Yeah, go
going
ahead.
with you.
Yeah.
On vacation.
I want to Switzerland.
And Kaylee, you have to step down from
Item 7.
anyone else, recusals? All right. Item 405, staff update. Anything on your end, Kimberly, that we
Things that
need to
we-
be aware of?
Nothing on my end. Thank you.
Item 6 is blank, but I assume that is the consent agenda. maybe? Consent, folks?
There was one item on consent, item C1, the Leading New Dwelling. And the color board was, the comment was to return with full color board showing darker color for the main color of the house. The sample is presented as part of the set. We're still, the body of the house, the siding was still a little light, so we've made the comment to have the siding, what was the color? James Hardy, night gray
Night gray.
in color, and the client agreed, so that will be the comment with final approval on consent.
So you gave them final with
Yes,
that
we,
condition?
With that-
we did.
Yeah.
There was just a weird thing,
Yeah, do you want me to stop that?
probably.
Okay.
Was it just one item on
It was
consent?
just
Yeah,
an item
that
on
was it.
consent.
So motion
So,
motion that's presented.
And I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Moving on then to our standard agenda, beginning with item number 1, which we had a site visit for this morning. It's extra. No, that was. That's one. Okay. Item number. This is the Ashertisham residence, request of Rachel Rayner, agent for Ashertisham, for further conceptual and preliminary review of a new 3,297 square foot single family dwelling and 550 square foot detached garage, and a reduction of the required number of parking spaces from 4 to 3 on a currently vacant parcel at 2202 Calle Culebra. You last heard June 2nd this year. And we do have somebody's, anyway, We have a planner memo, if we could bring that up.
Bring it up right now.
Okay, so planner comments. As proposed, the project complies with all Article 2 and comprehensive plan policies. And additional findings for BAR within the Summerlin Community Plan. Plans for new or altered structures should be in compliance with residential or commercial guidelines, permitted encroachment of structures, et cetera. In public roads or right of way is consistent in style with urban and rural areas, minimizes visual or aesthetic impacts, landscaping and other elements used to minimize the visual impact. And if contemporary architectural styles are proposed, the design is well executed within the chosen style, and the style, mass, scale, and materials proposed are compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. So, yeah, we have our applicants here. If you could state your names for the record.
Denny Pikert, principal with RRM Design Group.
Shirley Wong, Senior Architect, Design Director, RRM Design Group.
Hi, and my name's also I'm also with the project. My name's Rachel Raynor, also with RRM Design, and I'm the agent as listed on the agenda and available for any questions.
Okay, welcome. So I'm going to set a timer here for 10 minutes. If you can present and show us what's changed since the last go around.
Sure, I'll just say a couple of introductory remarks. We're here today for preliminary design approval so that we can move forward with construction documents. It's been a long journey. At our last meeting, we were asked to have story poles installed on site. We had a site visit this morning, so we had an opportunity to see the site and the story poles as they relate to the home that we're proposing today. At the last meeting, there were several questions and comments and suggestions as well that we want to go over this morning. Keep it kind of simple. It's just a few minor changes that we've made to the plans, and we will walk through them now. Jolie is going to take the lead on walking through the changes we've made. So.
Thank you, Debbie. Okay, so we'd like to address the comments, the SBAR comments from the last review, notably you've noted, thank you for the comment that the project was well designed and articulated and the architectural styles being appropriate. B, thank you. We've noted that as well. Thank you for determining that the landscape plan is appropriate. That C, the modification request has been supported. So there will be an increase from the on-site parking spots. Or excuse me, a reduction, not an increase, a reduction on the on-site parking spots. We did put up, there was the request to install the story poles. The story poles were installed as directed. So thank you on our site visit. So moving on to some of the other considerations, the board had requested that we look at the glass railings on the residence, and we did look at them. We did study them. We did determine there were a couple of things we did want to note on the lower floor. If we can move to sheet PDF sheet 11 and 12. As you can see, so on the, I'm going to consider the top floor of the residence of the lower structure as the first floor, and then the middle floor and the lower floor. So in that middle floor, that particular terrace does have a lower sort of parapet solid wall and then a small portion of glass above. On the upper floor, we did look at it, we studied, but ultimately, I mean, this site has just an expansive ocean view, and the client was really really wanted to maintain that view so that if you're sitting there, if you're actually sitting on furniture on that deck, that your view is not going to be blocked by a solid parapet. So we felt like the glass railings were appropriate and did work well with the design of the architecture. We are proposing that we use a high iron or low iron content and anti-reflective type of glass for those railings, so that will reduce reflectivity. So at this point, that is what we're proposing that we do for that. And on those railings, there are actually accents that will pick up, as you can see on the lower part of the railing, where it's the same color and material as the fascias of the terrace there as the fascias on the building. So it's all integral in the design. The next item on the list is, it talks about studying warming up the color palette, deepening the colors. So we did study that, and we have done that. We actually have chosen some warmer palettes for the field stucco, and also warmer tones for the stucco down below. I'm also going to give you the tile as well, because that's the next item on the list. So we've taken the whole palette of the home to a more taupe and warm tone, warm taupes and neutrals, and try to pull all that palette together so that it is much more much less gray and much more warm and taupey and more gray in color. And then the last item on here, the next item is regarding the tile. There was concern, so there is, if we want to please go to sheet 10, so the sheet right above that. You can see there is a tile proposed on the elevations going around the garage structure. That tile is proposed to be a porcelain tile, and there was concern whether or not it would be matte or if it would be a matte finish. And so we wanted to bring you a sample of that tile. It is very much a matte finish. It's a through body porcelain, so it actually has a nice character to it, and also the colors within that tile are also reflecting back to the colors that we've selected for the field stucco and for the lower base stucco. And all the stucco will have a very smooth finish, much like the stucco that you're seeing in the samples that we've provided. And then the last item is regarding, if you can please continue on to back to sheet 11. Or actually, okay, well, we can see. The concern was with the garage element, the garage structure. There was a request to tie that back further to the home. So what we've done in that respect is we've actually taken the front part of the garage structure, continued the fascia that you see on the other lower part of the residence, continued that fascia going all the way around. And then that actually also helps to further articulate that L-shaped waterfall stucco element that's coming across. And there was a request to look at the study of that waterfall element previously, just had the solid stucco wall coming down. And we looked at that and wanted to further articulate that. We've added a window there in the corner, which is actually at the sort of foyer area in the garage. So as you're walking out of the garage to get to the home, you actually have sort of this little picture view through that window, little picture frame view there. And then we've also proposed to add a laser cut screening, set of laser cut screening panels that will also be, they're metal, that will reflect the same colors that are on the fascia and all the rest of the trims, the windows of the home. And that fascia and that screening element will actually sit about 6 inches off of the stucco wall, so that it will actually, in the daylight, have a shadow pattern that will project onto the wall. And we're also proposing that also act as a climbing trellis, so that vines will grow from below and climbing vines will eventually extend up that. And that's the last comment. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Questions from the board?
We don't have the trim color, right? We were just, you know,
Oh, the facial
samples-
color.
samples.
Yeah, it's on the board. It's a
It's fine.
bronze. Yeah,
We
I'm
were just
sorry.
con-
It's, yeah,
cross-referencing.
it's like it's a bronze with a little bit of a gray edge to it, but it's basically a brownish tone.
Okay.
A brownish bronzy tone.
Questions? I notice
It is on the materials.
site plan, or maybe actually, yeah, maybe a site plan. I had a question about the driveway and trash area in relation to, I guess this shows it too. Zoom in on the garage real tight there. There we go, that's good. So see where the trash enclosure is, and determine, you know, how tall those walls are that's holding up the driveway, so. Any idea, so 549. So the trash enclosure is at the same elevation as the driveway, I assume?
Just get it.
A 13-foot wall?
Yeah, it should be at the same elevation of the driveway because it's,
Yeah.
the idea is.
I'm
that
just
we-
confirming,
Oh,
yeah, so
yes.
that's about a 13-foot wall then, dropping down from the trash enclosure.
On the side elevation, there should be an indication
From
on sheet 11.
the,
It's this piece right here.
Yeah. It's not, I don't expect that to be a 13-foot wall, it's just adjacent
To the grade. If you looked at sheet 11, you can see the side elevation.
oh, I'm sorry, square footage, so 253. Yeah, that was right, I was thinking 549 was an elevation, so it's 253. And 247, so it's about 6 feet, okay. Sorry, yeah, got it. Okay, and then the rock outcroppings you're showing there, are those proposed to be faux? Those actual
They should-
massive
There.
12-foot boulders?
Well, I don't know if they'll be 20-foot boulders, but they are proposed to be natural stones. They're natural stone, they're natural stone boulders, yeah.
Okay.
Hoping there's maybe, actually, yeah, that they're from the site itself, but we don't know until
Okay.
we start.
Not that big.
Good.
Yeah, not that big. but-
Okay, and the stepping stone or the steps down, are those stone also? Okay. And driveway material?
Driveway material is a pipe or concrete paper. I'm trying to look at our landscape plan. Yeah, the driveway material is 17. Is a mortared cobblestone driveway. So it's like there's a photograph of it on L3 sheet, sorry.
So real stone
It's a,
manufactured product?
has it listed as a cobblestone, but it could be,
Probably a
It's-
concrete.
it's probably a concrete stone product that looks like cobblestone. Yeah,
Bottom right.
there's the final sheet. If you can see, there are the stone steps. And then the driveway material is on the lower right.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Questions?
You guys studied how the trail and the road are gonna be modified to allow the driveway?
Yes. I don't, Rachel, if you want to speak to that, we had meetings with the trail agency and came up.
Yeah,
with a
Daddy, I can
plan.
pipe in here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that new paving that was shown and that we looked at on the site this morning, that extends just to the edge or almost to the edge of that existing concrete vault. During our SDRC meeting or the Subdivision Development Review Committee meeting, after our preliminary application with County Planning, the Montecito Trails Foundation had submitted some public comments, and we had several meetings with them and some follow-up correspondence. Communicating that we would be in further conversations with them during construction and that we would relocate the there's that little trail wayfinding signage at the entrance to the trailhead. And so wanted to ensure that that gets retained and relocated as necessary.
To me, like there's grading that's gonna be required. They got paving out, but there's no impact to any of the trees or anything.
Yes, I was looking at that. I think we're probably gonna modify that, what's indicated on the plan as the paved area to be kind of more of a curve around to limit the amount of rising grade next to them.
And that would require retaining also, right? So
Yeah,
both
there'll
of
be
them
some
show-
retaining, yeah.
The new paving would be asphalt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just an extension of what recently installed there.
Questions?
Did you determine what the height of the retaining wall is going down the north side of the driveway?
Gonna be
Gets to about 6 feet.
6 feet?
It varies, obviously, it's,
Yes.
it's a driveway.
Probably starts at,
And then the one that follows the curve around, how about that?
Where are we talking on the?
Zoom in
She's
on
talking
that.
about the southern part of the
Oh.
curve of the driveway. So that one is
It's like 4.
it varies because at the steps come down.
So it's gonna follow the grade down. You can see the contour lines that butt into it. But ultimately, it's going to be, I can't tell you the exact height from the plans here, but it'll be somewhat above the sort of lower portion of the driveway adjacent to the garage doors. So you're sloping down into that space. And paving wall will follow the grades down, be higher than the actual.
And what's gonna happen in the undeveloped right-of-way area?
It's just going to remain undeveloped because you can see again by the contours that it slopes away pretty steeply. There's really no opportunity to develop that as a part of the cul-de-sac.
So you're not gonna landscape in there?
Oh, well, we can, that is in the public right of way.
Right, but you can still
Yeah, we
improve
can,
it.
I'm sure.
Because it is
we
your
can
frontage.
Landscape in there, and I think it would be desirable to do so as well.
Yeah.
So is there, I'm still trying to figure out the elevations here based on your question. So is there habitable space under the garage?
Yeah, there's no habitable space.
Okay,
There's just crawl space, it drops down.
So the garage is at the highest level that we can achieve and make balance everything. And then down below the garage, there's a kind of a storage area and a breezeway that connects the
To the house.
garage to the house.
If we see it.
so that those
Page 14 shows.
stepping stones that are shown here at the bottom of the page. Can you zoom in a little further on that? It goes up to like 246.33. And then the elevation of the garage is 253. So where are those steps going to, I guess?
The steps that are in the landscape?
Yeah,
The steps that are in the landscape are actually, they're running along the topography of the land.
Right.
Those steps were actually requested by the fire department. We worked with fire and they were requesting for access for them, that they wanted some sort of path to be able to go down there, and so.
but you can't get down there from the driveway. It's like a 7-foot drop. Driveways, or the garage is at 253, which the driveway would also be at, and then they're 246 up at the top of the stairs.
247 at the lower, right? And then
It's existing grade.
it's 247 at,
So I'm not
this is
quite understanding.
246, 247.
So if this garage is 253, this must be 253.
Well, you can see the corners.
6.
What
That's
is this?
247 existing.
Oh,
So this is a 7-foot drop.
The stairs will have to be modified so that they can reach up to them.
So you'll have just all stairs, all basically.
Yeah.
Steps.
Yeah,
Okay, so-
they're gonna have to be modified so that they'll reach up to the driveway.
You're gonna have to fill enough walls or.
Grade that edge so it gets up so you can come down.
That's all.
So you'll also have a big retaining wall there to hold up those stairs, yeah?
Partially, yeah, partially until it reaches grade where they meet, and then it'll die into grade.
Continuation of that retaining wall that closes the driveway there.
Okay, I think I'm understanding. All right, any other questions from the board?
Probably a goofy question, but I assume a car can turn around within the driveway to pull out first.
Yeah, we demonstrated that to satisfaction of the planning board.
Great, so
I have one other question, sorry. You're showing on the landscape plan, it's showing like a line of shrubs along this south of the property line. Are those proposed or existing that like is the screening? 'Cause I know there's
Along
some
the south
screening.
property line,
Mhm.
those are existing
Okay.
shrubs.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had a chance to see them this morning.
I saw there was some, so I wasn't sure if you were replacing it or if it was staying.
Some of them are just on the other property, the neighboring property, like the actual roots, et cetera. Some are on this side of the property.
That's like clear, I guess, that's there.
Have you gotten into civil drawings yet?
Yeah.
We have.
The grading plan,
It's 19.
A grading exhibit and a drainage plan. It is sheet 17, so 18 and 19. Okay, but they didn't deal with the extension into the trailhead in these plans.
yeah, it doesn't just
Scroll down.
basically stops where it hits the right edge of the right of way there.
Yeah, so it's not showing that area where you have to encroach into the trailhead. So you're gonna develop
We'll develop
that
a
because of the
separate
walls.
plan.
I mean, that's actually a really important
Yeah, no, it is
feature
an important
of the
feature.
whole project is how it interacts with the trailhead.
As I say, we're probably gonna reconfigure that a little bit so that you can make the turn with a vehicle, but not go beyond that. Like, in other words, limit the amount of cut into that where the grade rises up towards the vault there.
okay, I think we can move on to public comment. I have one request to speak and a letter from the Summerlin Bar, as they call it. Which I'll summarize. The overall project does appear to be very maxed out for the site, for the size of the site. It may be okay on the FAR, but those are guidelines, not absolute allowable values or quantities. The colors appear to be better, but the renderings show a lot of shadow shading. So they're concerned the colors may be much brighter and perhaps should be a shade darker. Glass panel railings still are excessive. I see they are shown darker, which helps, but is that the real final product intent? Also, the notation of using a less reflective type of glass is not repeated in the descriptive product video, just that it's more transparent, not less reflective, unless you miss something. Cable or rod type of railing design. For most elevators require a penthouse space above the cab. I don't see that provision, but it may be an error. And then design impact community would be enhanced if massing was recessed into the hill more. Probably the same or similar cost. Okay, and have Tom Evans.
Yes,
Whenever you're ready, 3 minutes strictly.
as you know, contemporary is a conditionally acceptable style. The planners referred to that, and neighborhood compatibility is one of the findings you have to make. I just want to read something from the previous paragraph where it describes contemporary. This style of architecture is defined by its ability to complement the neighborhood by using neighborhood context, block face, and site topography to define its major elements. I like this house, but my concern is its compatibility in its setting here and the neighborhood. Colors probably should be a little darker and definitely a low LRV value in all the materials. Richard's referred to the glass issues. There's nothing like this building, with this amount of glass and so on in Summerland, not in this neighborhood or anywhere around. We have some contemporary buildings, but not to this extent as far as height is concerned. And so I think the amount of glass is still an issue. Story poles, they look pretty modest looking across from the other side, but you have to remember that there's two more floors of glass below. And so we've got 3 strong floors of glass railings and so on, then the garage. And while it's all well designed, I just have concerns about, I think it needs to be moderated to really fit in. There's some unused understory under the garage, which maybe could be used for something in the house, for the house, and maybe eliminate something someplace else. Richard referred to that in his comment. Digging in more would help also. So those are basically what I have to say.
Great, thank you, Tom. Okay. Anyone else that wants to speak on this item? Okay,
If you're in the chat, please raise your hand if you'd like a public comment for this item. Great, see none.
Okay, so back to the board for comments. Ms. Froscher?
Well, I had concerns about the glass railings, and I still do. I think it's very hard to have them not be reflective, and there's so much of it. So I would still encourage you to go with the cable railings, not glass. I think that these colors are really nice, but I think they should get darker still, that they can tone down incrementally and still get what you want. But it will just help to kind of nestle the building into the hillside more. I'm very interested to see more development of the landscape, because you have so many walls to deal with and so much height, and that undeveloped right of way is really important. And even though it's not on the property, it is the face of the property from the street. So it should be incorporated into what you're presenting. And then maybe it's a question, but it seems like the new paving to interact with the trail, if that could not be asphalt, but be a different material, it would help transition back to the trail rather than just increasing the hardscape feeling to what is now pretty rustic when you get up there. And likewise, how you treat the hillside, it's the entrance to the public trail. It's a really important part of the project that even though it's not on your property, I feel like since you're impacting it, you're tasked with making it really interesting and aesthetic, but like a trailhead still, and not a kind of engineered carve out to get this driveway into a big house. I think the architecture can be, there's other examples of really contemporary architecture scattered around Summerlin. I think it's going to be fine that way. But I feel like the more that you can do to
to low key it in, and that would be through colors and railing and landscape. Would be
Ms. Grubb?
So on the landscape plan, I think generally the plant palette looks acceptable, but I think there's a lot, as Val mentioned, there's a lot of conditions to study more specifically. I think the retaining wall for the driveway on the north side is gonna need some study on how, because you're really close to the property line there, so how to soften that. I think a closer look at, and you probably studied this, it just isn't shown on the landscape plan, between existing and proposed landscaping with that screening, because a lot of that existing screening potentially is impacted by the cutting into those stairs. And so just looking at how that'll come back together when you cut in the path around. It looks like there's only the 4 Brisbane box trees along the south side and 2 Chitalpas. If those are the only trees proposed, I think just clarifying the quantities and placement of trees and screening plants would be helpful. I agree with Val on the colors. I think this color, like as we see it inside, is a good color, and so I think a couple shades darker, so it reads this way when it's out in the sun, it would be good. So, but the tone seems good. Otherwise, I agree with your comments.
Okay, Mr. Richards.
I like your guys' project. It fit in there nicely. My only concern is kind of the modification of the road and how the trail gets affected. I think that's the major impact on the neighborhood here. So if you go to the first sheet, you guys have this awesome rendering of what the first page of what the house is going to look like. But then when I was up there, I don't think this is a view that you can actually get of the house. I think it's kind of go up one sheet. So maybe next time you guys could bring a rendering of what it would look like standing in there from that area where you're going to be modifying the road, and kind of study how the landscape is going to get impacted, and how the trail fits into that, because I think that's kind of the key part of pulling it all together. I think the architecture is nice. It's a challenging site. I think it's nice how it steps down. And the other thing Chris, I think, was identifying is that the steps and the circulation around the property need to be further developed. I don't think they're working based on what I can see there. So maybe next time there's a little more detail on that. But I support your guys' project. I think it's nice.
Mr. Bloomer.
So I want to talk about the mass bulk and scale in terms of neighborhood compatibility. I think it's contrast to a lot of other projects in the area on the hillside. It does a very nice job of kind of stepping down. I think it's respectful. I was impressed by the site visit today, how story poles kind of confirmed that assumption that it's pretty well sited, actually. And nicely broken up, almost reads like 2 different houses from certain angles. Looking at the elevation, kind of further breaks it up. So I think once it's set in and mellowed and the landscape fills in, I think it's going to be a nice little addition on the hillside, and very compatible. From mass bulk and scale, point of reference. I want to respond to the public comment about this notion of conditional use of contemporary architecture in the Summerlin area. My interpretation of that is that, this is a contemporary house, and then a contemporary house is a fine addition to that, to Summerlin. But there is some conditions that should be placed on. I don't know what this should look like to make those conditions relevant, but certainly in my mind, putting this kind of architecture on Lily Avenue, that would probably raise some concern. Because that's kind of the heart of kind of an architectural style that I think is being
continually curated and paid attention to, but with a house that's sitting on the edge of the development, nestled on the hillside, kind of quietly minding its business, I think perfect place. If there was going to be a condition where a contemporary house would make sense in Summerlin, I can't think of a better spot than this site. So I think the contemporary architecture here is not a problem. And the last thing, I think I'm still a little sensitive to the material palette. Although I do, just looking at the story post today, it seems pretty well nestled in. Still a little concerned about the stone tile proposed on the upper element. Would be in favor of something less rectified and polished, and something a little bit more textured, and maybe still consider darkening the palette of the building a bit more. So the only exception I have to the current proposal is really just the material palette. And I like the comment in the previous review about regionally specific materials, and that stone is a great stone that you're using. I love that stone. I think it's a beautiful stone. It looks great on floors. But on the side of a building, it feels a little out of place, and especially in a polished, rectified manner. So the color's not the problem, or the character of it. It's just the texture. It's kind of, that rectified, kind of smooth. Yeah, I'm concerned about that. I'd like more thought brought into that, how that gets used. But other than that, I'm still supportive of your project.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the house is pretty well integrated into the site as well, but I am not really in support as is. I mean, it's basically a 4-story house, 3 of which are all glass. It's very much concerned about the lantern effect that it would have on that whole little valley. And it just seems like it's more house that would fit better into Malibu than into Summerlin. It's just too much program in my eyes. Also, a couple other things. I'm also concerned about the end of the road, the cul-de-sac, and the size of the retaining wall that will be required there. Once you grade that out to get your access into your driveway, I do think another different material would be better than asphalt. But you're basically going to have a 5 or 6 foot, it appears, retaining wall, and then a perfect view of that vault, and it's going to be not attractive. So I guess the comment would be to try and soften the entry as much as possible and grade it up, and try and hide the vault
Give us a plan.
if you can. Yeah, we need to see that more in the plan. And then when you come back on your elevations, if you can flip to the elevations, we want to remove the plant material that's in front of the buildings, because we need to judge the building for itself. Not necessarily this one, but if you keep going down, some of these have sort of plant material obstructing where the actual building will be. So it's really hard to see the real extent here, like in this one, for instance. And also these, I think we mentioned this last time, those are not realistic sizes for rock outcropping. So how does that really work there? So this is a perfect example of, to me, a 4-story building with 3 stories of glass. It just, to me, it's not appropriate for the neighborhood. Beyond that, I mean, it's beautifully designed. I think it's just too much glass for my taste. So, and let's see, I think that's about it. But I do agree with the previous comments. I think the colors could be darkened. That will help. And as Val said, 3 stories of glass and glass railings. It's just over the top. And I understand wanting unobstructed views from all floors. We all do. Would love that, but we have to consider the architecture as well. So if there are any other additional comments from anyone, it seems like to me that we need to see this one more time. Hold on, there are some unresolved issues like the retaining walls around the house and all the steps. I think especially off the driveway, that's just not shown correctly and at the cul-de-sac. And so I think we need more information as well.
I think I made comments on the landscape for on property, but I think it was just in questions. We talked about the right of way landscaping, so maybe we should just have a comment to study the right of way landscaping if it's not proposed to be paved.
Right, but to further, before preliminary, further develop the landscape.
Yes, I made that comment, right?
Yeah, like you said, looking for it further developed.
We can add before approval.
Yeah, more developed plans, sizes, locations.
Kimberly, would you mind reading back the landscape comment so that we can?
And let us know if you need clarification.
Yeah, sure. Right now I've got further develop landscape plan, provide more details of landscaping within right of way. Kind of all over the board here, sorry.
So for the further developed landscape plans, let's add including quantities and sizes and locations. They had sizes, but not locations and quantities prior to preliminary and final approval.
Okay. Site quantities, size, and location. Correct.
Yeah.
While we're on it, I mean, those Brisbane box trees, yes, they're sort of columnar, but isn't that too much tree for that small space? They're gonna be right up against the building. You'd be doing a lot of pruning, difficult pruning. Is there a better choice?
In my
I don't know,
mind, there's
just-
not too many columnar, like it's one that
Yeah,
can handle it, but yes, eventually.
yeah, so I guess just study
It's a
the,
tricky condition.
think of the firewheel tree might work there too, or it's just, there's not a whole lot of columnar trees. But I guess the comment would be study the feasibility of and the sizing of proposed trees in the location shown. But so it sounds like we need one more round. And do you want to put this on for prelim and final? In case it's all dialed in. So when you return, come back for preliminary and final. Do you have questions? Because I know we're kind of all over the place here.
Well, of course, we were hoping that we would achieve that preliminary approval today. I expected that there might be some minor issues, like the color. Consent on final approval, construction documents. I assume we come back at that point. I do agree that, we need to, we actually did some initial sketches of what the trailhead situation would be. But they weren't incorporated here. So I agree that that's something that could be that we will develop. But again, that could be on consent as well. So,
Mr. Chair, I actually mistakenly thought this was on further conceptual. I just read that, but I didn't see the preliminary. So I'd be willing to make a motion if we can get some clear notes into it. If you'll entertain it.
Yeah, I guess I didn't feel that there's enough question mark areas, particularly with the landscape, that preliminary is the big approval, and that this is an opportunity to pull all those parts together and then move forward with it. But I'm not ready for preliminary.
I kind of just under discussion here, I consider preliminary approval locking in the design, like the mass bulk and scale, siting of it, the overall architectural style, like we like the project. Now, the next step after preliminary approval is to work with the applicant to tune it in to get it where we want. If we give the applicant the confidence that their project's approved and they can put 100% of their energy into responding to our comments and getting on the same page with us, I think that's a more productive use of the preliminary design. And final is final. And if we want to bring it back, like one of the conditions I'd be willing to make in a preliminary approval is to have it come back for final review in front of the full board so we can enforce some of the things. But unless we're talking about restriking the siting or asphalt and scale or landscape in general, they're bringing a full landscape plan forward. So we're not into loggerheads about it. It's just fine tuning to the design, and obviously the road
Well,
is something that needs to be dealt with, and I think the applicant's gonna be willing to do that. It's just that it wasn't their primary objective to come here and
Got it.
handle
So
a trail.
to me,
It was to get a house approved.
it's not fine tuning to me. I mean, look at how much glass that is and all.
It's great. Fantastic glass, beautiful glass.
How would you feel living
I am-
across the way from that if the lights are on all
It'd
the
be
time?
fantastic.
It's gonna light up the whole
I think
place.
I'd live in a
So-
neighborhood
And the
with nice
glass
houses.
railings is still a major concern for some of the other board members as well.
I don't think we should be.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you wanna make a
Architecture.
motion, we'll entertain it, but we'll see if we have a second.
Well, I'd like to make a motion for preliminary approval, and I'm conditioning that come back for final on full board. And I think there's some comments that need to be read back to make the board feel comfortable with the considerations that they want to have addressed at the next hearing.
So is there a second?
I'll second.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
2, 3 opposed. Okay, so motion fails. I entertain another motion, or we can move it as we were doing and have it come
yeah,
back.
I mean, I don't think it's slowing you down, but I think that the landscape and the grading and all of the surround to the building should come up to the same level as the building for preliminary. And historically, that has been given a lot of emphasis, that the landscape, particularly on a challenging site with lots of grading and lots of visual impact, that it all be up to the same level.
That's
So-
my only reason for it, is that it generally we are held to that standard, the same standard of detail that the architects are at the prelim level.
I mean, typically, I think as Josh explained, this is certainly my sense of it. There's a lot of information in these drawings. The next level is what we call design development. Once we have a conceptual approval that this project's going to be approved to move forward, we would, do all of those refinements, et cetera, in our design development phase, construction documents. But I understand. I mean, I see we're kind of at loggerheads here. I'd like to come back as soon as possible to add the additional information that you've requested. And I don't know what the next hearing date available for us to come back. We'll provide that additional information. But I do want to say that we're not likely to reduce the glass. We're not likely to withdraw our client's desire for the glass railings. There's some fundamentals that aren't really going to change. We definitely want to come back, provide a little more information, more clarity on the landscaping, certainly at the driveway entrance and the trailhead along the side. I think there was a request to be able to see the actual grade line of the building as it steps down with retaining walls, free of the entourage landscaping, all that. We can certainly provide that. But following the system of building, having review, having comments, responding to those comments, and then narrowing everything down to responses to those comments. I think we've certainly done that. And like I say, let's come back and further provide that information.
Tell you that if there's no reduction in glass, I will. But that doesn't mean that it will pass, so I think.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you, because of course your client wants what they want, but if there is a place to reduce glass, where would it be?
I don't know.
I mean, there's a strong indoor-outdoor relationship, but those glass doors pocket into walls to create openings for them to be able to extend their interior and exterior, join their interior and exterior spaces. So
I'm sure you as architects have a lot of, if you do single family homes, this is what clients they want. They want that indoor outdoor effect.
Sure.
Chair, can I make a suggestion, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, but we need to move forward.
Like I suggested, the applicant get into some 3D renderings of this project. If you're gonna fight the battle, these guys over this bias they have against glass, you need to show it, like, this is not how buildings look.
That is
This is
exactly.
a freaking
what
elevation.
It's gonna be.
It's an
This is not-
architectural study and it doesn't have anything to do with the way this house is sited. It's facing mostly east, southeast. It's very low slung, has deep overhangs. It's not an outrageous proposal. It's very reasonable. And I think you're getting pilloried here on something that, because the presentation's not conveying, it's making it, what would otherwise make these folks comfortable. Like, I think when you get this into perspective, and you think about what it looks like from different vantage points and how it presents, like, it's nobody's business what people do on their own property. Other
Then
than the
what are we
people,
here
other than the
for?
people that own it. And if it's not offending anybody, it's not creating a problem that's real, then they should be allowed to have it. And I
Okay, point
don't
taken. Let's move forward.
well, I need to bring some balance to this conversation. It's not
But I agree, we do have a 3D model. We can
I know,
model
but-
it from any point of view, and
I
I
don't
think you'll
think
see.
that's-
Helpful, actually,
I
thought
think
about
if you're
that.
gonna make the argument, you gotta come in a bit more perspective, because I think it's being misinterpreted.
Good, thank you for all the input. We'll hopefully get back on the agenda quickly, I think.
Can we,
25th, if the planner's okay with it.
Just render it with all the glass slid to one side.
In the budget.
Jonathan, do we need a motion to continue the item? The
I
motion
think we should
for
come
preliminary
back.
approval failed.
It's not really a motion, it's just the item is continued.
Return to further conceptual.
Turn for further conceptual, prelim and final.
Yeah. It doesn't
you'll
bring
let
you
us know
back.
as soon as we can get back.
Yeah, I'll get in contact with your planner Kathleen and let her know that we want to go back.
That's true.
Okay,
Thanks,
moving on.
It's fine.
Item
Thank
number
you.
2 was dropped from the agenda, so we're on to item number 3, which is the Janice and Robert Kopf 2001 Trust new single-family dwelling request of Eva Turnshaw for Janice and Robert Kopf for conceptual review on construction of a new single-family residence of 3,275 square feet, new detached garage, 2 detached garages, is that right? And a vacant parcel in Hope Ranch, a 1 acre parcel at 3979 Laguna Blanca Road.
Send me your address.
Got the app. State your name for the record.
Yeah, Dylan Henderson, and if I could start my video, that'd be great. The host needs to let me do that.
Also, just so everyone knows, we have not seen this yet because the plans were not in the folder. So this is the first we're seeing of the.
Actually, this is the one that you had plans for.
Okay.
It's the next one, just.
I don't think so. It's not the one. No. Doesn't look familiar.
We have the one with the workshop, the like drop down workshop.
Right.
Lot 3.
Oh, okay. So then, Jonathan, I'm gonna send you. Well, no, you've got these, so.
They
okay.
have the right one.
Yeah, they've got the right one. Okay.
This is item 3.
Thank you, Billy.
This is item 3, yeah. Okay. So there's a video.
No, I
Is that
was
right?
just seeing if I could turn on my camera just for my face.
Oh, you know what you look like.
I
Just kidding.
just makes me feel so much better.
Yeah.
I don't know. So also, the question, Eva, are you going to introduce the project or is the planner going to introduce the project? Do you want me to jump right in?
I think
I'm
we
gonna
can
give you
jump right in, and then if
We
they
can
have
do it in
any,
10 minutes.
yeah,
because-
any land use questions, I'm here if you have.
Okay, great. Okay, so this proposal is in at 3979 Laguna Blanca Drive. It's lot 4. This is Jan and Bob Kopf. And what I'd like to do is go to page 6 of the PDF. I think starting with a neighborhood, yeah. lagged a little bit here. Yeah, I think your numbering may be off of mine. I'm sorry. Well, let's just start back at the beginning and we'll scroll through. Okay. So this house is located on an empty lot in Hope Ranch on Laguna Blanca Drive. It has a new construction of a single-story primary residence at 3,275 square feet. We have an attached garage of 560 square feet and new construction of a detached garage with a workshop above of approximately 360 square feet each. The total square footage combined is 4,500 square feet. Total deck area is 475. And, we have some other, exterior items that are on that list as well. And so this is a sort of a transitional Spanish architecture. If you go to the next page, please.
Is there a site plan?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to here. Yeah, so this is the contextual photos of the neighborhood. Site plan is sheet A 1.2, and on my version here, it's page 5. So go down, yep, right there, perfect. There we go. So you see Laguna Blanca Drive to your right. This house is going to be located about 3 feet down from the existing drive. The goal was to, it's a single story residence, obviously, but the goal was sort of to nestle this into the hillside as it starts to descend toward the golf course. That's hole 5 to the left on this site plan. We're not proposing removing any oak trees on this. These existing oaks will remain. And you can see that this is sort of a central atrium plan with the main house and then a motor court joining the garage. Next page, please. So this gives you the floor plan of what's being proposed for the primary residence. Next page, please. This is the floor plan for the workshop garage and the workshop above. Next page, please. So these are the exterior materials being proposed. We're talking about sort of an limestone ashlar pattern for the foundation stone on the house with the garage doors, custom garage doors in that color. We have sort of a modeled Spanish tile roof, and that will be a single stack Spanish tile roof, and then reclaimed beams with sort of the precedent image on the lower left corner is very much what this look and feel of this house is going to look like. Next page, please. So these are the proposed elevations, and it looks like you have an older set, Eva. So we had revised these for ABR to be arched doorways in this central court and at the entry door. And so we are considering using arched doors in both of these locations. So you'll see that when we come back for preliminary, but you can see that sort of larger steel window and door openings with smaller punched openings. Next page, please. This is just going through. We have an east-facing deck and then more of a northwest-facing patio. So this is the view of the east-facing deck and the garage elevation, and then the sort of side elevation facing the golf course, which has quite a bit of grade drop going down that side of the house. Next page, please. And you can actually advance. Yeah, that's perfect. So we have fully developed landscape plans, which I think Michaela from Bosky Landscape is on the phone. So I'm going to turn this over to her so that she can present the landscape. But again, the goal was to very much use the natural landscape that's around the site, not remove any of the oaks, and then just sort of develop this beautiful integrated landscape plan. So I'll turn this over to Michaela.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Michaela from Bosque Landscape Architecture. If we could go to the next page, please. So this is our overall site plan, and beginning at the street, we have a driveway sloping down into the property where we've created a motor court, and there are going to be about some 3 to 3.5 foot tall retaining walls, kind of keeping that grade back in to provide that parking area for the residents. And then towards the rear of the property, we have kind of terraced the slope there, kind of in the natural direction of the slope to provide some usable space for the clients. And then kind of towards the upper right-hand corner of the property, you'll see a small deck with a proposed sauna inside the setback of the property, just a little recreation space for the clients. There's a small retaining wall there. We have in sort of the courtyard space, responding to the architecture, a simple water feature and a fireplace lounge for the clients. And then towards the front of the property again, you'll see the entry coming from that motor court area into the front of the house. And we're going to have a low boulder retaining wall kind of keeping back the grade there. So overall, just trying to respond to the architecture and do what we can to provide usable space for the clients on a pretty sloped site. Any questions?
So,
anything else?
I wanted to mention one thing. So this has gone through ABR twice at this point. And so one of the comments that they made early on was to study the mass and scale on the eastern property line at the accessory unit due to some neighbors' comments. That has been done, and we've revised these plans to have an unenclosed staircase on the eastern property line on that workshop. And so it's going to feel sort of like an exterior Spanish staircase going up to the upper level workshop. And so I feel like that is definitely going to respond to the neighbors' comments. And I got positive comments back from staff at Hope Branch. And so we've been developing this design with them over the past several months. And so I just wanted to highlight that we're actively in design and responding to comments from ABR as well. So I don't have anything else unless you have specific questions for sure.
Okay. So have you done story polling?
We have, and we have photos of those story polls. I know that Eva included that in the link that she sent this morning. So if we want to look at that. And ABR did walk those story polls prior to our concept approval with ABR.
They're not still up.
They are still up. They were actually supposed to be taken down this week, but it was delayed. So if anyone does want to see them, they will be up until Monday.
Trying to get with Hope Branch so that when these projects are coming to us, we're informed that there are story polls up so we can see them as well. So we don't have to, just in case we're, there's contention here to request story polling again. We hate to make people do it twice. So I don't know how we go about doing that, Jonathan, but to have Hope Branch inform us when there are story polls going up for projects that we're going to be seeing also. So anyway, for what it's worth, but it sounds like they're up for until next week. So if
Monday, Tuesday, they're scheduled to be brought down, Chris. So
okay.
if you want to see them, you'd have to get out there this weekend.
Okay, and is that both homes?
It is
Yes.
both
Story.
homes.
Yes.
Okay. The next item is side by side, and okay. So anyway, if anyone wants to look, I think that's it for your presentation. Then, yeah.
Yes. Less
Well, the
questions.
story poll, the story poll photos are up if you want to scroll through them.
Can we see the story poll?
But sure. Okay, questions from the board?
Yeah, what's the landscape screening around the workshop?
We do plan to provide some significant trees between the workshop and the property line so that the neighbor on that side is seeing a screened version of that building.
What are they?
We're still in conceptual phase as far as selecting specific plants, but we could do oaks and maybe some Rus integrifolia, just kind of layer it.
Other questions?
Is there a story pole photo of the workshop?
Is there a separate file for the story polls, maybe?
Yeah,
There you go.
there it is.
Okay, so like there's no other questions, so public comment, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? If so, please raise your hand or step forward. I think there was a letter, but I don't know which one it was for.
Let's see.
This one, 'cause she had a photo of the story pole of the workshop.
Yeah, and that's the neighbor to the east, and that's why I was mentioning we have redesigned that workshop garage. We are stepping down to the eastern property line to break up the verticality of that wall and to reduce mass and scale, and then added additional screening and plantings, which Bosque has actually prepared an exhibit for, which has been sent to the owner to pass along to the neighbor at their discretion. And so I do feel like we've really responded to the concern that is in that letter, because it was the same letter as ABR.
Okay, good. So I think that concludes public back and forth for our comments. Scrub, start down the line.
Landscape. I think it overall it seems like a nice project settled into the neighborhood. I appreciate that they're trying to preserve the oak trees. Generally, the outdoor spaces seem modest in scale, so I don't think there's anything really to note. I'll look for it in the preliminary phase, seeing more developed landscape.
Frosher?
Yeah, I think it looks like a really nice integrated project. The architecture looks great. My only concern was that the workshop did look kind of like a tower, the way it interacted. So I'd like to see more, the information that you're working on with that, with how to nestle it in and screen it and all of that. But the way the house works with its topography is very, very well done.
Okay, Mr. Richards.
I agree with the positive comments. It's great how you're designed this house fit within the existing oak trees. And the style of the architecture seems appropriate for the ranch. Great that you're working with a neighbor to try to resolve whatever issues might be my end around the workshop there. So give you all positive comments. It's always nice to be able to review the plans before, so maybe a little further comments if I could have studied it. I think it's a great plan just from what I've seen right now.
Mr. Bloomer.
I think it's important that the landscaping be done correctly on this project, because of the condition of the site right now is kind of a blight. It's just very denuded. So the landscape architects on the board are happy with it. I think that's a really important part of the project. I think Valerie kind of summarized the comments I have. It's also a very complete set of documents. So it'll be agendized again for just conceptual. Recommend these guys get on the agenda for preliminary and final based on conversation.
And what's the appropriate approval? So do they need that before we can?
Yeah, sounds like they're pretty far along with them.
If nothing changes, they should probably come back here with an agenda to move this forward.
Very good. So I agree. I think it looks very nice. I'm a little concerned about that big oak near the front door. I don't see how that would not be heavily impacted. I know you had an arborist report, and I didn't notice until now about that tree, but if that can possibly be moved a little bit further away from that oak, it seems like that would be helpful. I don't know what the elevations are, but that was my only concern there. And then what is our question? What is the material? Well, I guess those are retaining walls, right? Sort of
Next to the big oak.
dropping into the motor court. And so the guest parking, can you walk me through that situation a little bit more, Dylan or Michaela?
If you
Yeah, go ahead.
If you look at the landscape plan, we have a little bit of a different design versus the site plan here. So where you see that oak, we are planning to do a boulder retaining wall just to try and more lightly create that retention of soil there. We have also added additional oaks along the front of the property just to help, preventatively mitigate for that if something were to be impacted. And then I believe the retaining walls that we have around the motor court, you're not really going to even see them from the street because they are sunken into the property as the street is higher than the motor court here. And I believe, Dylan, tell me if I'm correct, that we're planning on those being stone walls.
Yeah, the ones at the motor court will be stone. The site walls will be plaster, stucco, and then the stone will tie into the foundation stone we're using on the house, which will then complement the stone we're using on the patio, both on the right and left side of the page that you're looking at. And so, yeah.
Zoom in a little more. Okay, so yeah, the comment would just be try and save that oak. So screening from the street was sufficient. I think you have some nice buffered planting. So it sounds like positive comments all around. I think per Josh's suggestion, I think once you get Hope Ranch, you can come back for preliminary and final, but it seems like.
Do you have drawings at the workshop of the changes you've made? Are they in here?
No, I have them on my screen. I'd be happy to share them, but I don't know if that's allowed or not.
Can you do that?
You can
At
for conceptual.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you could.
Or you could describe it.
Okay. Am I allowed to share my screen here? Can I do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if Jonathan's got to give you permission.
You should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, great. Let me do this. Okay, share screen. It says host as disabled participant share. Sorry, I'm logged in on 2 screens. Can you give the other one control? So, sorry. Oops. Okay, now I can share my screen. Okay, so here we go. Okay, can you see my drawings here? Okay, great. So let me just go up to. So one thing, this is actually.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm glad I can actually share. So this is the more updated plan set. So you're seeing the arch doors and windows that I was talking about. So we have those in both in the court and in the entry and on the side, the eastern facing deck. And so I'm now going to go to my Revit screen here, and I'll show you the updates on this. So very quickly. So if you can see this, what we've done is we've created an exterior staircase to access the upper workshop, along with sort of a ramp access down on this side of the property. And so that does a couple of things. It creates a vertical separation in the wall by giving some real relief and definition. This is approximately 3'6" in depth where this staircase is. And so that will greatly reduce that sense of mass and scale along that eastern property line. And then when you look at, I'm going to just share the screen on the quick rendering that was done. So let me do this. Michaela was able to do this yesterday. So the proposed screening here, so when the plants first go in, what you're seeing in the darker green would be sort of that initial, 8-foot height, and the proposed screening beyond, which is slightly shaded or half tone in the back, is those trees at approximately 16 feet. And so we're creating vertical breaks in the wall. We're creating defined break in the wall from going back in recess from the front of that staircase to the actual building line, and then providing this additional screening. And I think that all 3 of those things will help solve any concerns that the neighbor had.
Okay, I think it'll be helpful to bring that 3D stuff back when you return.
Yeah, 100%, yes.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments before we move on?
Yeah, maybe add some kind of roof extension over that door. That's the door at the top of the stairs, right?
Oh, that's a nice idea.
It would break the facade, create some shadow.
I like that.
Okay, great. So we'll see you next time for prelim and final. And we'll move right into item number 4, which is also yours. It's the RKKW Living Trust, new single-family dwelling. Agent for the owners, Whitney Cope, for conceptual review of a 2,000 square foot residence with 300 square foot basement, detached garage, accessory structure, landscape and hardscape at 3981 Laguna Blanca. So Dylan, if you want to just go ahead and jump in and walk us through this one as well.
Okay, should I share my screen again?
I'd rather, is it different than what we have?
No, this one should be the same.
Yeah, so we'll just do it on our end.
Oh, okay, I'll stop sharing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to set a precedence here.
That's true.
Okay, let me know when you're ready.
Ready.
Great. So this project is 3981 Laguna Blanca Drive, and this is all one family who's, luckily was able to purchase both of these properties, and so this is really a wonderful project to be a part of, sort of a family consideration here. This is lot 3 at 3981. I wanted to point out that on your description, in your project description, someone transposed the numbers. The square footage is 2901 square feet. That's
Forget it then.
Yeah, 2901. So I just wanted to have that on the record because that is how it was noticed as well. So new construction of a single story primary to residence of 2901. There's a basement below the primary residence of 305 square feet. New construction of an 816 square foot detached garage, new construction of a detached workshop structure of 337 square feet with some additional site elements which are listed. And so going to page 2 of the PDF, please. This just gives you some perspective views of what this house looks and feels like. If you go to page 6 will get us to our site plan. So
this is the one I was saying the same.
Yep, page 6 of the PDF is the site plan A1.2A. And so in this project, we were very concerned about keeping as many of the oaks as possible. We are having to take one oak, which the arborist has accounted for, and we are mitigating. And again, this project has gone through 2 rounds of ABR, and we did walk the story poles with them. But we've sited the house as sort of delicately as possible within this existing oak grove. We're taking one oak to provide the garage and the parking spots that we're required to have. And you can see that we've sort of taken this southeastern approach to the interior courtyard of this. And then we have the workshop below, and that actually has a green roof on top. So when you're standing in the patio area, you'll be looking out over the roof of the workshop that will have green items growing on it. Michaela will present that when we get to the landscape plan. If you go to the next page, please. So again, this is just sort of the, we don't need to, this is the hose pole plan. Sorry, go to the next page. Okay, so this is our floor plan. So what you'll see is a very simple diagram for the floor layout of this house, and then the garage and the adjacency of the workshop below. If you go to the next page, please.
Could you change it?
It's over there, that's locked down. Facilities.
I don't think it's advancing on your side. Sorry, that was the same view, I believe. Go to the next. Yeah, there you go. So this is the garage plan and the workshop plan. And then again, just shows sort of contextually shows how it relates to the site next door. Go to the next page, please. So materials that we're presenting on this. So we have a cedar shake siding. And so it's going to be a mix of smooth Santa Barbara stucco and then cedar shake siding. And the goal with the cedar shake is to have an oversized sort of tile, right? And so these are going to be, they have sizes from up to 10-inch by 24-inch. I don't think we'll go that big. But in general, this is going to be an oversized shingle creating the siding on a portion of the house, and then a smooth stucco on the other portion of the house. The garage will be reclaimed barnwood, and we'll have these sort of details with the epay deck set into a concrete curb, essentially, around the deck. That shows the precedent image for the garage door. The workshop below is going to be board form concrete, which I'll show you in the elevation, and then we'll get into the landscape. So go to the next page, please. So again, single-story residence, very simple gable roof forms. The goal is to have an eaveless design, so we'll have an integrated gutter with the roof. I've got details on that that we've already presented to AVR, and so we'll be showing that to you for prelim and final for sure. And this it's just going to be a very, very clean sort of contemporary architecture while using a bit more of a rustic finish on the exteriors with the reclaimed barnwood and the naturally aged cedar. Next page, please. Yeah, so this shows you the exterior elevations of the south portion of the house. Next page, please. Yeah, so the lower elevation on your right shows the workshop. That will be board form concrete with a Corten steel fascia on the planting bed above. So you'll read this sort of rusted finish at the top, and then it'll go to board form concrete with all green growing up at the top, obviously with the house in the background. The garage will be reclaimed barnwood with a standing seam metal roof. And next page, please. And this just gives you an idea of the site section so you can see perceptively how the grades work relative to the patio and the workshop elevation. We're having to do very little excavation just because that is how the hill sort of rolls off in that elevation. And then we'll jump to the landscaping because again, the landscaping was very important to us to make sure that it was really tying into the architecture. So Michaela, jump in.
Okay. Go to the next page, please. Okay, so we can begin at the beginning of, or the front of the property along the street. We have a concrete paver driveway, which we've kind of put at an angle there because there is a street sort of perpendicular to Laguna Blanca right there that looks directly at this property as you're coming down the hill. So we wanted to kind of further screen the garage and what's happening from that view. It also works a little bit better with the natural hillside. So we have added some small retaining walls on either side of the driveway to kind of pull that back and make that entrance possible. We have a chip seal guest parking spot to the left there, kind of opposite the garage. Moving forward towards the house, we have some additional parking, which we've had to make space for with a small retaining wall. It's kind of that L-shaped one there. We have a decking walkway and entrance to the house, kind of trying to be gentle on the roots of those trees there, and also just working with the rest of the architecture material-wise. And you can see The trees that we are impacting have the red dashed lines around the trunks. And we have worked with the arborists to mitigate appropriately for those trees that we are impacting. So you'll see different oak trees proposed, many of them down at the street level, but we are providing adequate trees for that. Towards the back of the property in the rear garden, we have leveled out the area between the house and the workshop, providing a surface, level for the clients to enjoy. So in order to do that, we had to add some retaining walls kind of flanking that office/workshop space. And those are going to be somewhat substantial. They're about 5 to 6 feet high each, but that was necessary in order to kind of level out that area. And then towards the end of both of those retaining walls, we are tying back into the natural slope of the hillside. On the left side of the office and workshop, we have added some concrete stairs that are following the natural grade down to that access point, and we have added a small deck with a wooden hot tub in that area, just to add some element of fun for the clients. And then around the property, we are going to be screening pretty substantially with kind of naturalized native evergreen hedges to kind of provide privacy and then screen from the views of the neighbors of this property. Let's see, what else do we have? We do have a small 4-foot fence at the beginning of the property just to keep in animals, like they have some dogs, so just kind of something minimal there, but we do plan to screen that with plants, which we will have presented at the next round.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board?
Where are any neighbors?
There's one neighbor to the right of this project on the page. So to the northwest.
Kind of right where the arrow is sitting.
Yep.
Okay. Are they above, below, same level?
They're above from an elevation standpoint. Just slightly. And in our second meeting with ABR, because you have concept plans, they have a little bit more developed of a plan. In the second set, we have a neighborhood compatibility study, which again, I can share with you. You have an older set.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item? If so, if there's not, raise your hand. Looks like we have no one. So to the board for comments.
Again, and it looks carefully thought out and nicely done. Yeah, I think if we can go drive by the story poles, that would help us to understand this.
Okay, any differing views or additional comments?
I think my same landscape comments carry over, that it seems like a landscape plan for the site, and I appreciate the trying to protect as many of the oaks as possible. It seems like a modest size house that probably was due to the size or the locations of the oak trees, so I appreciate that effort. And so just when you come back for prelim and final, I'll look forward to the more of the species and of the screening material, and yeah, I think it looks acceptable from a landscape standpoint.
Okay. All right, Josh, anything?
Nothing.
Okay, so I think this would probably follow the same trajectory as the previous one and return full board for prelim final.
Yes.
When you're ready. Try and get by the story poles. I have to go to Hope Ranch after this anyway, so. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Item number 5. Is that, L Rincon?
Jonathan, so what are we doing about the temperature in here? It's freezing.
I was gonna come right now and fix it for us.
It's winter in here. Yeah. Can we have a little break?
Off for a second.
Freezing.
Should we make a decision on
Crawling
lunch?
into my backpack
It should
if I
it'd be after 6 or after 7.
I mean,
So that if I don't know if there's people waiting for the
from
one.
here,
I
from
know.
here on out, it seems like pretty minor.
Yeah,
Just go for it?
I think we
Okay.
should go for
I
it.
just wanted to
And
make sure.
I
we
know item 10's here.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been sitting here and I would hate to send it.
So we're gonna try to get through all this and skip lunch and go after, so everybody.
I know, it's brutal.
Make it snappy.
Warm it up anyway.
'Cause we're getting angry. All right.
We're cold and hangry.
Yeah, item 5, El Rincon LLC, request of A34 Studio agent for Lauren Kest for conceptual review of a small first floor addition, and small second floor addition at 168 Rincon Point Road. First time seeing this, if you guys can give us a real brief presentation.
Located on Rincon Point on the beach. If we go to the next
And
plan.
names for first.
Oh, sorry, Alan McLeod, A34 Studio.
Lauren Anderson, A34.
So we have existing photographs. It's an existing shingle style building. We're looking at doing a reside and a window replacement as well as part of the project. We're adding 2 small balconies, almost like a Romeo and Juliet balcony on the ocean side of the property, which we can look at when we do the floor plan. So if we go to the next. The existing site plan. So just we have the existing entry road and driveway. We have a existing two-story garage that we're looking at adding a couple of windows to at the upper level. Somewhere. And then the residence is towards the beach. So if we go to the next slide, we can see the existing plans. Next. That's the existing upper level. See the existing bathroom and the master on the upper portion of the main house. They have a steeply sloped pitched roof down, so the bathroom, we're basically just adding a bathroom addition to the upper level of the house. So next plan.
You go to sheet A 1.00.
Which one is that?
Eight or 9? 9.
So this shows the extent of the addition and the location housed between the existing garage and the main house. Dashed in the dark color. And there's a small addition to the lower level in the garage, also indicated in the hatched pattern on the north side of the building. Go through the floor plans. Edie. So we're adding a small, we're relocating a small powder room at the ground floor in the main residence, and the small, you can see the small addition on the north side of the garage. Go to the next plan. And we have the addition of the 2 new balconies at the second floor and the addition of a master, and not an addition, a enlargement of the master bathroom on the upper level. And we can just go through the elevations quickly. Effectively, we're keeping this existing pitches. It's a multi-pitched styled home. We're just matching the pitches, extending that out, and you can see how it's just kind of tied in together from the courtyard side of the house. And that's the scope of the work. We've been contacted by neighbors and we've set up meetings to meet with them to work through the floor plan. So they have a couple of concerns. We're happy to meet with them and we're in the process of that right now as well, just FYI.
Do you have existing elevations or are these?
Yeah, we do.
Page 6.
Page 7.
Anything else?
It's scope of it. We're going to do some deck replacement as only where we've got damaged decks. It's an existing wood deck from the early 80s. There's some damaged dry rot. We're just going to replace like for like.
Quite.
Yeah, the AC just turned off.
Questions from the board?
What's the materials of the Juliet balconies? What are you gonna use to build those?
We're going to do a wood deck.
Uh-huh, and the railing?
And the railing will probably be a cable rail.
Uh-huh.
We're not going to use any glass. It's too reflective and it keeps getting dirty right on the ocean. So it'll be a cable rail with a dark, probably a powder coated black or dark bronze color.
Okay.
Any other questions?
And there aren't any other balconies, and there's no
Nope.
balconies, yeah.
Okay, public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? If so, please raise your hand. I have a hand gone up from Emily Boyle. Emily, 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
Yes, we've been in communication with Alan, and we're going to meet in a couple of weeks to go over our concerns about the elevation on the master bathroom. So that's our only issue. And I did write an email, which I'd like to be part of the record.
Okay. Great. Did we receive that?
I
Jonathan?
think you responded and invited me, but essentially it's that we're the house behind their property at 181 Rincon Point Road. We're above and behind them. And so we're concerned about our view corridor that we have through there. And under the grant deed of the Bates family, we're successors in interest and have architectural review rights.
Okay.
Can we go back to that elevation? What page is that? Where?
9.
Existing or proposed? Existing or proposed?
Proposed.
It's 10.
10.
9.
And this is the first I'm seeing of the elevations.
Okay.
Sorry, it's 12, 13.
So can you point to the area that she's talking about?
Yeah, I can absolutely point
Yeah.
to it. So the addition area is located here and here. And it's on the, on the inside of the courtyard.
If you can follow my mouse, pointing to where he was describing.
And then on the existing elevations, there's nothing there right now.
Oh, there's actually a roof that drops down over that same
can zoom
space as
in.
well.
Yeah.
There's a dash of where that.
Of the existing?
Yeah.
It's hard to see.
Is the existing roof line right through.
Okay.
So the existing bathroom is located here. We've pushed out and it's in the side.
Okay, is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this item? Okay, comments from the board? Anyone? I would just encourage you to continue talking with the neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard from looking at the drawings, what it's doing to their view or what they think could be.
Absolutely.
Is this, is there,
cohesive.
is there an outline on that site plan that shows where the neighbor is adjacent to that?
The neighbor, I can show you, the neighbor is located on this property in this area here. And they sit around 8 feet, just about 8 feet above us.
And the ocean's right.
Yes.
So, oh, so their concern is looking over.
Yeah, they're
Okay,
looking over
okay.
through that area to the ocean.
Okay, any other comments? Any comments?
I guess aside from the neighborhood concerns, it seems like the additions are in keeping with the style of the architecture. Scale.
Okay.
Scale and sense.
This here for concept, I think it seems return prelim and final on consent for this one.
And like I said, we'll meet with the neighbors in September.
Okay. September,
Yep.
okay. Guess it is on September.
It is already.
Okay, great, thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes, sir. So let's take a little 10-minute break. Hours and hours. So we'll reconvene at 22. Let's do that.
There's just no.
Number 6, right? What's that? Yeah. Fitzpatrick Trust Deck, request of Mary Androlitis, architect for the Fitzpatrick Family Trust. For preliminary and final for the roof deck at 791 Sandpoint Road. And CARP last heard June 16th. We have a planner memo which states the neighboring properties have 2-story elements and or cabanas and similar covered patio structures. The proposed rooftop deck and pergola will not be located closer to the ocean than existing structures. The covered deck is subject to the same height limit as the residence, in this case 25 feet, and all zoning requirements are met. We have our applicant here. Please state your name for the record.
Yeah, hi, this is Mary Androlitis with NMA Architects. Brian Banks, our land use consultant, is also in attendance, as well as Jen Fitzpatrick, the property owner. And I think I can be pretty quick about this. Would you mind jumping to page 10 of the PDF? And just as a, oh, you're gonna.
Yeah, just 2 comments. Study opportunities to better integrate the proposed structure with the existing residents and landscape screening as appropriate. So take it away.
Yep. So just a quick reminder, this home is one of the last remaining original cottages along Sandpoint Road. So it sits very low in elevation behind the seawall and therefore lacks any ocean views. So we're proposing to replace and enlarge an existing roof deck and spiral stair just to create a modest area with a little bit of shade so the Fitzpatricks can enjoy an ocean view on their property. So since our last visit, we spent some time restudying the proposal, and due to the rigid constraints specific to roof decks with the HOA, we did return to them for further review following the last SBAR meeting. And another reminder, both neighbors had also been provided drawings for review and comment. So when we went to the HOA, we did share your comments and feedback and asked them to specifically respond to those in the minutes, which were submitted to the planner, to Tatiana, for the record on this project. The HOA did not want to see the roof deck increase in either size or visibility, and the adjacent neighbors are also in agreement with that. They felt it was a modest proposal affording the Fitzpatricks an ocean view that their home lacks, and they unanimously agreed the design was architecturally pleasing and successfully tied into the architecture by use of the same materials, details, and colors. So as a result of those comments, we are returning with the same design, but I have provided some updated photo renderings and want to talk a little bit about the visibility and again, how this ties into the architecture. So if you could zoom in on the first photo rendered view. Basically, this home, because of how low it sits, it's not visible above the roof line from virtually anywhere. So this first view, view A, is from the easterly neighbors deck. Again, they've reviewed the plans and support the design. We are proposing 2 Metrosideros trees that you commented on for additional screening from this viewpoint in particular. View B is from the end of the driveway at Sandpoint Road, a private road. This is about as visible as the home gets from the street. Again, you basically see the roof line. It does sit at the end of the driveway. The home sits behind a 5-6 foot fence, plus some ample landscape screening. The next view, view C, is from the westerly neighbor's property. And I will point out, there's a small key map below this photo rendering. This photo is taken from the exterior stair up to the 2nd floor of their cabana. So from the house, it's completely screened with landscaping and fencing. And this is just from an exterior stair. The 2nd floor of that cabana is actually oriented in the complete opposite direction. And this homeowner additionally is in the process of augmenting landscape screening in that area. And then the last view is from the beach. And again, you can't see the house at all from the beach. It sits back below the seawall. In addition to that, if you go to the next page, sheet 11, we reworked some of the renderings a little better just to show you again the efforts that have been made. This house isn't visible really to anyone but the homeowners, and we've tied it into the existing vertical siding by using the same siding and color at the guardrails. We're using the same color on the spiral stair that exists on the windows and on the trellis. And then the sunshade trellis overhead picks up on details of existing window sunshades and the trellis in that view B, which is on the north side of the house. So again, yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I realized once you started presenting, I'm working for a neighbor directly adjacent, so I'm going to recuse myself. I just wanted to give you a reason why I'm.
I don't think you need to.
Do I not need to? Oh, okay.
Working for a neighbor, I don't think it's a problem.
I think you just need to disclose.
I
the
see you
nature of
disclose.
your
Okay, I'm
relationship.
sorry to have interrupted, Mary. I just didn't want to.
No, that's okay. That's essentially the presentation. So we've been challenged with satisfying the SBAR and the HOA and just providing, responding to our clients' very modest proposal for a small area where they can view the beach. So again, we're back with the same design with comments from the HOA.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board? No questions? Public comment? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? If so, please raise your hand. I see Miss Jen Fitzpatrick. Assume you're the owner. You want to make a quick comment?
Yes, sorry, just figuring out how to get myself unmuted. Just wanted to, one, express my thanks to this group for the rounds of comments thus far. Our original plan with this home was to do a much larger and multi-story reconstruction. We've, as you can see, scaled it back and really at this point are just focused on taking the existing roof deck, which to be honest, barely fits our family of 5, and just getting a little bit of space where we can, enjoy time together there. The existing roof deck, if I'm honest, is a safety hazard. And so we are very eager to get going on, like I said, just getting something up there that, to Mary's point, we think is a fairly modest change, but that really would be a game changer for our family in terms of ability to additionally enjoy this place, which we love to pieces.
All right, great, thank you. All right, back to the board for comments. Anyone?
Yeah, I don't have any concerns.
Okay.
It's fine.
I think it fits in well. You should be able to move forward.
Okay, anyone else? Yep, okay, I agree. I think just like you said, a very modest proposal, and I would entertain a motion. It's here for prelim and final.
I'll make a motion to give them prelim and final as submitted.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Yeah,
Great.
it's good.
Thank you very much.
To be able to see the beach from a beach house. That seems important.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, moving on, item number 7, Ridgeway Trust, new single-family dwelling, request of Craig Burdick, agent for owners Ridgeway Trust for preliminary and final demolition of an existing residence and construction of new 2,750 square foot on a half-acre parcel located at 1475 Anderson Lane. Last heard June 2nd of this year. Do we have the applicant here for this project? State your name for the record, please.
Craig Burdick with Studio 1030 Architects.
Craig, you want to come up to this area? And we do have a planner memo, it looks like. While we're pulling that up, I'll read our comments. No, sorry, we don't have a memo. That was for the last project. But we do have 2 comments from last time. Good concept and well presented. Size, bulk, and scale is appropriate. Architectural style is appropriate. So if you want to show us what, just walk us through briefly any changes or
Really not too many changes. Basically, it's a concept of doing a barn type structure in there. And the elevations really haven't changed or the massing. We just developed more details.
Yeah, maybe you could
Towards the
just
exterior,
walk
yeah.
us through your
So-
details and your materials board.
So what, if you could go to A 0.3, should be the next page. So the exterior is mostly hardy panel, kind of a board and bat. And then part of it's horizontal siding as well. Majority is board and bat, sort of keeping with that barn style. The roofs are matte black, standing seam metal, and the windows will match that too, probably a bronze, dark bronze color. The exterior lighting is probably be something like Tekka with that anodizes itself. And then the probably the more important areas, since they're pretty expensive fixture, and then kind of a barn gooseneck type light for around the garage. And then underneath the porches and the covered patio, we'll have the hanging FX luminary. We don't have the areas where the walking path will be, or the lights for along the paths and some of the exterior, but it'll be similar to the fixtures at the bottom. Again, kind of a copper anodized fixture. If you go to, I can take you through the elevation very quick. I'll just a refresher on A02. So that's pretty much the same as it was before. Yeah, you can see that we worked on, like I said before, try to break up the massing. We have a loft structure which brings the plate height way down for a two-story structure. And then as it goes towards the bedrooms from the main living areas, it goes down in scale, where if you look at the middle rendering, it's the bedrooms are on the left. If you could go to 3 or A3.1. I think it's the next one. Those are some of the 1/4 inch scales. Yeah, this one. So this one keys in a lot of the exterior details. It shows the loft area looking back from the kind of dining living area back to the loft area where there's a couple bedrooms, and then the other way is the living room that steps down. You look at the fireplace, and then you can see the bedrooms that has the horizontal siding.
Go to the
and a
detail
smaller
sheet.
mass there. So the next page is the details. So the gutters are going to be, it's going to be very minimalist, right up against there's no extended eaves. It's kind of a very minimalist design. And on the middle detail, we have a band that to help break up aesthetically the facade, and then also it helps with the panels that you have to have a split there. So we tried to incorporate something that worked aesthetically as well as functionally. And then the other details just show some of the porches and the canopies. Those will be covered with a corrugated metal. If we go with a rustic design, it would probably be weathering steel. If they choose to go with a paint, it would probably match the roof with a matte black.
Okay.
And that's
Yeah,
right.
do you have landscape, final landscape?
And the landscape, Martha is supposed to, is she on Zoom?
I am here under Cali Ridgeway and have no video enabled, so from you guys, so I'll be happy to walk you through that verbally if you want.
Okay, that, yeah, that's planned. Good, Henry got these uploaded, because they got sent not with the landscape not attached, and I sent this and you got them.
Great. So this, as you know, is right across from Seacrest Nursery. So we have a number of palms featured in the landscape here. King palms primarily, and pygmy date palms more or less near the house. And then on the streetscape, we've got cassia trees, gold medallion trees. Existing in the front yard are some fruit trees, they're Asian pears. And in the rear yard, there's a large redwood tree that we're protecting. The landscape's rather simple. It's got a small hedge along the frontage there and set back. We have some bio infiltration basins that will have a carex grass growing in them. And a small lawn area in the back and some additional fruit trees in the back toward the southwest there. So generally, more of a tropical look in the landscape with the palms and some variegated agaves and so on. Agapanthus, rather simple. And again, the bioretention areas. The ADU is simply separated from the house by a pathway there. And then we've got a large existing elm tree along the driveway that's to the north of the property. So again, pretty simple. We've got a couple little gravel areas that are meant to look quite informal that can be a pull-out area for visiting cars along Anderson Lane there. So that's it. It's very clean, simple landscape plan.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, let's bring it back to the board for questions. No
I
questions.
don't have any questions.
All right, public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, see no hands. Comments from the board?
Looks done.
This is prelim and final.
Yeah,
No comments? Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for preliminary and final as submitted.
I'll second it.
Second by Robert, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And then, thank you. Item number 8 was dropped from the agenda, which brings us to item number 9, the Goto new residence and guest house, request of Johnny Hirsch, architect for Ken Goto, for final approval of a new residence of 4,000 square feet, guest house of 800 on a vacant parcel, Toro Canyon, 805 Toro Canyon Road. And we have the applicant here for this project. Yes, we do. I'll start reading the comments. The majority of the board is supportive of the height of the proposed structure and finds the exceedance of the hillside ridgeline height limit minor and is acceptable due to good design. The structure is nestled into the site and respects the topography and site conditions. 2 members voiced concern that the highest part of the structure would exceed the height limit at the closest area to the road. Second comment, landscape plan is appropriate for the project site and will screen proposed structure. Additional review of landscape plan will be required at final on full board. So show us what's changed. Give us a brief synopsis.
Architecturally, nothing has changed. The essence of this presentation is that we've fully coordinated the architecture, landscape, civil, added structure, and pertinent architectural details. If we want to just start clicking through, much of this has been reviewed and hasn't changed. having to do with the height that we've already discussed. So you can pretty much kind of race through to the last A sheet, which we'll just have, keep going, please. Sorry, I don't have the, right there, the detail sheet 17. Yeah, this just has starts to describe the material details to the exterior with the stone cladding and wood and metal cladding as it relates to various points in the building where windows hit, where lighting fixtures, and that lighting fixture is just a stand-in. We have night compliant light fixtures we've already covered. And just some relationships to the grade and the stone and foundations. What we I think really should focus on is Graham's presentation with the landscape. So I'm going to hand it over.
Yeah, if you could turn to L 1.1, please. Graham Goldich with Bosque Landscape Architecture. I'll keep this brief as for the most part, we maintain the same overall design. However,
sorry, this is structural. We're going to pass through. I mean, you're welcome to review the structural stuff, but so it's you might have to click out to landscape. It should be past this.
If
it's not, you can just go directly to the file that says landscape. Yeah. Sorry.
L 1.1, please. Thanks for that. So yeah, the overall design pretty much has stayed the same, but departing from the previous angular architectural language borrowed from the residents, for opting for a more natural, sinuous approach in both geometry and materials this time. And despite the design being largely the same, we've taken great care in moving the needle towards reducing impact in many areas. We've reduced the overall new impervious area by 140 square feet by replacing the running bond pavers along the entry corridor with a permeable gapped flagstone. And at the terminus of this entry, we've opted for a much more modest water feature, bringing our water feature square footage from 50 to only 2 square feet. And then collaborating with the civil team, we've managed to reduce the max height of the retaining walls south of the pool from 5 to 4 feet. And similarly reduce the retaining wall heights at the fire hammerhead from 7.8 feet to a 6-foot max. And then a couple design changes of note, the addition of a trash staging area within the motor court retaining wall, which we've reduced the max height from 8.5 to 5 feet. And then again, the shift from the larger aqueduct style water feature to a much more modest Goldsworthy themed recirculating bowl feature. And then lastly, the elimination of the infinity edge of the pool. All of these changes can be found within the new robust render exhibits found on L 1.6 and L 1.7, and the key for which is found on page L 1.5.
We should look at those. They're pretty.
L 1.6 would be great. At the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the much more modest water feature, just a recirculating bowl kind of spilling over these kind of Goldsworthy style steps. And then similarly, just to the left of that, you can see the new flagstone paving gapped permeable, which allowed us to reduce the overall impervious.
Okay, can we go back to is there anything else?
I think that
Can we
covers
go back
it.
to that landscape plan, the overall site? Just wondering, what do you have for the screening material?
Yeah, so those are all field dug olives to the south of the pool, and then the greener ones to the right are oaks. But yeah, field dug olives, double XL, 25 feet at planting. We've reviewed at the previous.
Okay, great, thanks. Questions from anyone?
On your planting plan, sorry, this is very minor, but there's a green plant symbol with a pink surround, and I don't see it in the legend, but the legend's a little grainy on my end. Is that maybe?
I'm assuming it's the roost.
Is it roofs? Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, I see. Yeah, I just couldn't see the pink part on the legend. Okay.
yeah, sorry, the gradient doesn't transfer well.
So all those trees along the new driveway, are those all oaks?
Yeah, exactly. The intent is to basically create like an oak woodland feel.
Okay, 'cause I guess some of those are really, it's like on top of the wall, probably just drafting error, maybe just move those back up a little bit uphill.
Yeah, those are actually intended to be these air prune trees that we get from Napa, which with very small root balls. So they'll be pretty close to the edge there.
That driveway wall has calmed down a bit too.
Yeah, the driveway wall, I forgot to mention, is a little bit more sinuous than it was. And then we actually did away with these steel planter boxes that those trees were actually gonna reside within. We thought it was a little bit too loud, so we toned it down.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, public comment, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, see no hands, comments from the board?
I appreciate all the changes and the way it's evolved. I really think it looks good. Yeah. And you know, even these new landscape things that you described right now, they're all really, really nice.
I like the more sinuous approach to the retaining walls.
Yeah.
And then the two soils here. Okay, any other comments or a motion here for final approval? The house fits in a lot better than it you initially proposed it. I think it's really improved. It's a nice project.
I'll make a motion for final approval.
Okay, any comments? So,
Not other than the positive ones you said.
okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
The landscape architect.
Motion carries. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks.
Moving on to our final item of the day, item 10, the law dwelling and garage request of Jeff Shelton, architect for Nancy Law for preliminary review of a new 2,500 square foot single family residence.
Mr. Chair, if I could interject, the planner wasn't able to be here today, but she prepared a planner memo, and she requested that the board review the planner memo and comment specifically on the findings that need to be made for this project.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is located at 2632 Montrose Place. Last heard August 26, 2022, so almost a year ago. So planner comments are up on the screen. I'd like to read them because I don't. But anyway. Go down a little. Right. Is that it? No. So when we make a motion, we just want to make sure we
Include
incorporate these findings.
Yeah, and they wanted to make sure that the ESPR was advised that that P&D required redesign from the prior design to keep them on slopes that were less than 30 and 20% as much as possible. And staff is supportive of the location where they've sited the home at this point.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have our applicants here. Please state your names for the record.
Jeff Shelton, architect.
And James Carson.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay, we can go to sheet A 1.0. Well,
Just going to set a timer for 10 minutes and you can just basically show us what's changed.
okay, well, the problem is everything's changed. And so we, like I said, it was August, I quickly through this. We had story polls, reacted to neighbors, reacted to you. Sent a whole package just like this, and the planners stopped us and said, we're gonna have to move that whole building back. And we shouldn't have got that far. So after we accepted that, we did what they said. And so we said, okay, you tell us where the building goes now, and we'll forget everything we did and we'll start over. And so they did. And so this first sheet shows that.
So did they want you to move it up the hill
Yes.
closer to the road?
Well, they move us on to the flatter area of the lot, because we started pushing it out to try to get views from neighbors before and all that, and being sensitive there. And that was all fine, except they didn't like it, the planning.
And it was rotated
So,
before, right?
so they said, build it in that, in the flattest zone. And so we had them, you can see on that red line, put it in there. And so we just started over. We had to push the garage back out. We had the garage in it 10 feet from the parking line. Believe me, this was a bit frustrating, especially for the owner. But so we got the footprint area approved before we even looked at this thing again. It was, and they approved the footprint before we even started designing it again. And that's what you were going to see here. And I look at through all that, I like what we came up with. So I just wish we'd found a year earlier, or we're told that exactly a year earlier. Nonetheless, here we are, and we're going to present our project. But if you, that's why this building is sitting right here, the only place they said we could put it. And with that, if you want to look at the bright side, it's stepped now. I was keeping it real like a box to save money. Okay, now it's a stepped out with the site. The site's at an angle like that compared to the road. So, I think we have a good product here, good building here. But just before we move on, look at the garage is sitting there. It's got its guest parking to the left, attached to the building. We have floating bridges that go over. That's all front area between the road and the houses, all caissons floating concrete. And then the house sits there. And the house is under the 35 foot, just like you guys asked last time. And the county and the planners have said, yes, we accept this building, and so we're moving on. Let's go to the next sheet, 1.2.
If I could just clarify for the record for the location, county policies prohibit development on slopes of 30% or greater, and request a minimization of slopes of development on slopes of 20% or greater. So that was the genesis for the siting issues.
Okay, so if we need to get back to this, we can move on through these plans since you've seen them before, but if you need to, there's a survey, keep going. This is a slope study next. Keep going up. Just so we can get you guys back in the game here. We got those two houses on the house on the left, house on the right. They're very tall and boxy, and we're trying to fit in between those two oak trees and save those oak trees. And that's been the goal. How do we build on a tough site? Next. This is, in case you need to see it, we're trying to get their views in and trying to put our building back where it needs to go. But now it's been pushed back towards the street. Next. We keep going to here. Once again, we don't have to stay on these too long, but it shows you where we're, the red dot is our house in an R12 lot, and no one wanted to touch this lot apparently, and that's why we're here with a steep lot. Next, we can get through the photographs unless you need to get reacquainted, there's a photograph I really want to show you on 1.2.3. Just so that's from across the way. Now, next one. Down at the bottom of the sheet is one more down a little bit, right there. The one on the bottom right, that's the street level. Yes, it's kind of a funny angle, but really those are the great oak trees we're trying to save.
Right.
And we're out there and you'll see our color elevation of from here and how it affects the street and people walking by. Okay, let's move on to, well, we're gonna go through the civil plans, but basically it's a tank under the building. Okay, so let's go to the L 1.0. Civil plans are just a bunch of civil plans, right? If you wanna.
Nobody cares about that.
Get into those, we can. Ashley Vance is doing that with us. And so they redid the civil after. This was a bit frustrating because we had them all done for the other building. Here we go. This is a landscape. Katie Klein is working with us and the owner, and they wanted a, like a native landscaping chaparral. Of course, that's fire issues, but this is fire-wise chaparral spaced along with fruit trees. And she's created these two flat-ish areas because there is none up there along the contours there right below the building. Back on the street side, it's mainly Huchera, I don't know if I'm saying that right, ceanothus under those oak trees, not much, a bunch of oak leaves, trying to keep it just like it is basically with a few plants. And one of the big issues was screening. We'll do whatever makes everyone happy on each side of us. She has I don't know the name of those trees. Chris, you guys can figure it out. What was this? We're using them on a bunch of projects you've been looking at. Anyway, we have those trees on the side.
Firewheel, yeah.
Firewheel trees. Trees on the side, we can move those around to the neighbors in our wherever they want them, as long as we get that by fire. We have stairs for fire going down the side there. But a casual, I'd say nice casual palette here for this building, and the building's a very casual building too. Let's move on to 2.0.
What are the heights on those retaining walls for the?
I'd have to check, I think 3 feet-ish.
Where?
For those two terraces?
Oh, they're, I believe they're under 2 feet is what the landscape plan says.
It's not much. Our plans and our the garage, we lowered a foot despite our civil engineer not wanting us to. The whole building has moved up the hill, so it's within the height parameters as you guys asked for last time. But we have them on that one on the right is the top floor. That's the living area only, and a garage. Bottom floor is 3 bedrooms. Below that is our basement with tanks, and I guess we'll throw mechanical down there. But this is stepped. All these are stepped as the county has asked us to. Next. And there's the roof plan on the right, and it's a butterfly roof now. And then there's the basement is that left half of the basement we use for tanks. The other half, that other third of the basement is just not even crawl space. It's dug in and probably might be a slab on caissons. Next. Now we can go to these elevations. Let's jump to the all the way to 3.0C. The color sort of shows you what's going on. If you want to come back to these, we can examine those. But let's go to this sheet here. So the bottom right is looking at it from the street, and we've stepped the roof 2-3 ways. So we try to step it in plan, then step it in the roofs just for some interest. To the left is from across the valley, looking back at it. to the upper right is from the neighbor to the southwest, and the other one is from the northeast. But it's core tin building, some dark gray windows, window sashes, et cetera. I call these kind of a quiet building after landscape grown up around it to hide, if you could, on a hill. Next. Cross section. That shows you the deepest part of the basement, and some of it is all the way up to where that line natural grade goes. Now, the bottom elevation here is right at the building, so you can see the road line. You can see the road cut across there. That's our issue there. Next sheet. 4.0, what is that? Oh, details, core tin details. It's pretty simple, seeing as how clean we can make it basically, but horizontal core tin with handmade, shop-made lamps that just shine the, golden light straight down and no light at neighbors. Next. Concrete deck on the lower floor just extend out. The upper eaves are 3 to 4 feet, depending on the front deck, et cetera. But I have a little detail to make that whole. We've reduced the outlookers to 2x4s to get as narrow as possible up there. So it's not too bulky, the roof line. Next.
Cable rail.
No, these are either 3/8 or 1/2 inch, or is that rebar? Number 4 rebar, galvanized. Next. Colors, that's what I was talking about, dark gray, blackish windows, something to not clash. That's our palette right there. And that's, I think, the presentation. That is the presentation.
Siding, is that corrugated or is it
No,
just flat?
It's flat. There's a detail in there, but its panels are 1 foot. So just a little dark line between them.
Cool.
I would do corrugated if the owner wanted, because it has more shadows, but.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So questions from the board?
I have a question. The neighbors were so engaged when we all did site visit and all that long ago. Have they still been interacting with you on this? Do they know about this?
Well, they were sent the
new
thing.
Yeah. But
I haven't
you
talked to them
heard-
about that.
You haven't heard, or
No, it was, I'm gonna tell you, it was very odd that we were told, we went through a year doing it with the neighbors and we were told just to go put the building back here. So, my client was not happy about that, really trying to work with them. Now, I think ultimately the building's back farther.
Yeah.
So I ran out of ideas. I mean, I like what I'm doing here,
Yeah.
but it was, we did the best for the neighbors and pushed the building back. So we just picked the lowest floor lines we could possibly get and put the building there. It was just, an architect, or we were architects. This is where we ended up with the county telling us this is where we're going to put the building. So that's what we're showing you.
Yeah.
And I like it. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't bring it in.
That's good.
We do have a hand up, so we'll probably hear from a neighbor here in a minute.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. There was so many neighbors.
2 neighbors for sure. These 2 neighbors.
Yeah.
Were very interested in this building.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Okay, public comment. Anyone from the public liking to speak on this, raise your hand. I have one hand up from Waleed Afifi. You'll have 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
All right, thanks a lot. Thanks for the board. Just wanted to, and thanks for the question about the neighbors. So this is the first time that we've seen the planner's comments or almost any of the material presented. I reached out to the laws about, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, just asking for an update since it's been almost a year. And I got a sort of a drawing. That was all that's been shared with us. So that's been frustrating. I appreciate the planner's commitment to the law. I'm surprised the original proposal did not take that law into consideration, but there's some insinuation that the neighbors had anything to do with it. Certainly that's not the case. I'll note that the consultation with any neighbors or provision of almost any information tied to this revision has been sort of frustrating. Compared to the last round, which included story polls, there's almost nothing related to the new proposal that we saw in advance of this meeting. Mr. Shelton notes that the original design angle reflected a response to neighbor concerns. As you can see in our prior public comment, we questioned why it was not almost precisely how it is being proposed now in terms of angle and proximity to the street. So I'm glad to see that. I'm sorry about the delays that have been experienced by the laws and by Mr. Shelton. The proposed design still presents a real concern about privacy and doesn't really fit with the neighborhood norms about distance between structures. So our analysis is that their structure is about 27% closer, about 10 feet closer than any other structure in the neighborhood to our property. That closest point looks straight into our bedroom. So even with, the planned, trees, et cetera, that's a concern. Size. So while ignoring the average distance between structures, the owners and contractors make a case for equity on the size of the property. I can appreciate that. There's certainly one important difference. That lot stayed vacant for years, most likely because folks realized that they couldn't build a property of 3,000 plus feet on there because of the grades. So I can appreciate how it's frustrating that they want to build a bigger home and the property doesn't allow it. The solution is not to try to go around the building requirements or to make it so that their structure is closer to us, but to actually just build a smaller structure, which is exactly what they said they would do when they first started the project. So that's been one of our frustrations, is sort of their promise early on and what ultimately we have. The plans are apparently, the last comments I'll say, the plans are apparently used, again, this is not out of my expertise by any stretch, but quote unquote rusty metal for the structure. That doesn't fit with the aesthetic of the existing home in the neighborhood. I have no doubt that Mr. Shelton, I know, is a renowned architect and et cetera, but we just don't have the expertise to judge other potential concerns, emanating heat, how sun bounces off, et cetera. So I appreciate that the board will take that into consideration and reflect. It certainly will look different. That's in itself not a problem, but I don't know enough about it to comment about how it would affect us. And to my knowledge, it hasn't been discussed. So those are my primary concerns. I would love much more sort of collaboration and conversation. But we remain here with the concerns that we had in some cases a while ago.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? All right, so we'll bring it back to the board for comments. Ms. Frosher.
Trying
to pull up the
elevations. Yeah, can you pull
really
up the
quick?
elevations, the colored elevations? Maybe we can look at the
it's at the end of this.
the one that faces
13 there. Yep.
So it would be this, the one on the left.
The one
upper
the
left.
gentleman was just talking about?
Mhm.
Yeah, he'll be looking at the upper left.
Right. So, yeah, I'm sorry that this process has been so long and cumbersome. But I think that the current design is really good. I like it. And I like the roof lines. I like the stepping of the roofs. I like the approach from the street. And I like the side elevations as well. So I feel like it can be helped in terms of the neighbor that just spoke, in terms of just looking at what the landscape is along that side. And I feel that the Corten is a really, really appropriate, nice material that is soft on the eyes, a lot softer than white plaster. So it's a great material for a hillside home. And it's a beautiful material. It will not be hard to live with for people in the neighborhood, is my feeling. So.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Richards.
I agree. I think it's a great house. I don't see that this house is going to stick out on the hillside. I mean, the metal material is going to weather and age and look like it kind of fits in. think the landscape plan is great. I think what has happened in shifting this house back is we've kind of gained a little space to make some terracing in front of the home, which is a nice asset to the property. So overall, I think it's a great project. I'm sorry it's been such a hang up with the house being moved around out of your control. It sounds like a pain.
He seems fine with it though.
Can I add one thing too about the terraces? I think they're gonna be a really aesthetic treatment of the hillside.
Yeah.
And I like the way they run diagonally from the building and that they run with the contours. They're more like, I mean, there's a lot of places in the world where people live with very steep hillsides and terrace them. And they're more organic and they flow with the contours and they make more outdoor space in a really aesthetic way. And a lot of properties around this county don't do that. So I really like that as a landscape solution for a steep hillside.
Can we go to that landscape plan? Ms. Grubb?
I agree with the Val's comments on the terraces. I like that it's oriented with the contours. I appreciate, I think the species of tree along the concerned neighbor's property line is a good option there. It looks like one of them might only have like 6 inches of soil. So I'm just looking at that one that might be like for this. So just studying if that path can meander. I can't tell what's next to the path, just any, any space you can give it to help that neighbor's screening. But I think the species is appropriate. I think generally the plant palette is appropriate. And I think I appreciate the elevated access to the front door, allowing for the lighter touch on the less impact to the trees and lighter touch on the front slope. So we're in full comments right now, right? So just for consistency's sake, this does have a lot more documentation than our previously, our comment on our previous project, but for prelim, it's probably with all other things being considered approvable for preliminary, but we will want to see like a much more developed landscape plan with the quantities, sizes, locations and details and all of that. If like with the boulder bank walls and all of that kind of detailing for final. So, and we will.
Mr. Bloomer.
Yeah, the one comment I heard from the public speaker was some discussion on appropriateness of the architectural style, materials and all that. And knowing this neighborhood quite well, it's very eclectic. It's a mountain kind of foothill type environment, kind of prone to high fire and the elements and the kind of architecture that's being proposed, the style and the materials are perfect for that type of setting as far as I'm concerned. And I think they're well chosen. I think it fits nicely into the eclectic nature of the community up there. There's a lot of different things going on and there's a lot of really poorly done residences up there. And it's nice to see an addition to the neighborhood that's actually executed well. And it's just an improvement to the neighborhood overall. It brings the value of the real estate for everybody up to have a notable architect do good work on a hillside and do something that's frankly, in my opinion, very appropriate. So I think from a mass spoken scale and siting, it's also compatible. So compatibility on architectural style and materials, compatibility on site, configuration, compatibility on mass spoken scale, I can find for that pretty easily. So those are my main comments. There was a lot of discussion from the public comment today about laws and it was hard to follow. It went so fast, but I understand that you've worked through all the issues and you have a planner on board and there's a lot of people looking at it. So I'm not concerned about any of that unless anybody else on the board is.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. I think it's a great solution, nice landscape plan. It seems like those walls would be a little higher than 2 feet, given how steep that slope is, but maybe just when you return, just sort of verify wall height so we get a better idea. What is the material on the bridge to the garage? Is that raised concrete deal?
Yeah, right now it's all colored concrete.
Colored concrete,
Yeah.
okay.
And it's gonna be, no, it's not gonna be a steel pan, it'll just be concrete underneath, so we'll clean.
Okay, yeah, so we just want to see that in your materials board as well, but I think that it's a excellent solution for a tough site and it respects the neighbors and the neighborhood. It might be a little difficult to get screening. I was just looking at that elevation, you know, from when you're walking down the roadway, looking into the second floor, how do you privatize those big windows on the, I guess that's the south side maybe. But you know, I'm sure you've thought about that. So I have nothing else to add. I think it's a good project. And we are here for preliminary and we need to make sure we address those findings from the planner when somebody makes a motion.
Yeah, I'd make a motion for preliminary with the findings that due to unusual circumstances and in the interests of good design. Yeah, where is it?
You read through all that, please, Val?
Yeah, due to unusual circumstances, strict adherence to these guidelines would inordinately restrict the building footprint or height below the average enjoyed by the neighborhood. For example, significant existing vegetation, lot configuration, topography, or unusual geologic features may necessitate exceeding the height limit in order to build a dwelling comparable to other structures in the neighborhood. And in certain circumstances, allowing greater flexibility in the guidelines will better serve the interests of good design without negatively affecting neighborhood compatibility or the surrounding view shed. So that's my motion.
Yeah, so we are okay with the parking going from 2 covered and 1 uncovered. And yeah, so basically we're making findings that were requested.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a first, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, I'm the second man today. All right, so for preliminary approval, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I suppose come back final. Okay.
Yeah, and also I guess one of the comments would be to continue to work with the neighbors.
On the screening on that side.
Or reduce the, I'm trying to get the fire department to walk down that swale. It'll give us 3 more feet.
Right.
So somehow have a stepped swale for
the fire.
Yeah, and that'll give us 3 more feet for soil.
I mean, it is interesting that this envelope that you got pushed into has made a really good solution. I mean, I really like the way the house steps and shapes on the site and then coexist with the landscape terraces. It's quite different from what we had before.
Yeah, we just got to it a little late, that's all. But yeah, once I could forget about it, I'll start drawing.
Just forget about it.
Thank you,
I
guys.
appreciate it, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, that was our final item of the day, so we'll bring this meeting to a close. If, I don't know, do we have to make a motion to adjourn?
No.
No?
Oh, okay.
Been doing that for years.
Yeah, we have. Nobody ever told us we didn't have to.
Somebody told me we did at some point.